ex-wife had a traumatic event that she had repressed in her memory, and it came to light, and she withdrew from the family. I had 3 children. 2 were in high school, 1 was in elementary school, and she withdrew from them as well. At times we didn't know where she was. The bills weren't being taken care of. That was something that she was doing, but as a husband, I wasn't doing my part in making sure that I was checking things, so I just let her take care of those things. At one point, my daughter started to have some facial issues, and we had surgery that created a shockwave when she had a deviated septum. They had a septoplasty surgery conducted, and it caused nerve damage to her face, called trigeminal neuralgia. So if you don't know what that is, trigeminal neuralgia is also called the suicide disease, because the pain is so intense that the people would rather die than have to live through another phase of this pain. So my ex-wife wasn't around, my daughter was in this pain, I was taking her to see all these different doctors up and down the Eastern Seaboard. The mortgage was almost in foreclosure, and I'd drive to work and I'd pass out in the car just before going in because the stress was just too much for me to bear. And I didn't know what to do, and I lived like this for years. For years I lived with the fact that every time I heard a knock on the door, every time I heard a knock on the door, I thought it was the bank coming to take the house. I got 3 kids. I now have 2 in college and 1 home, and I don't know where my ex-wife is. You know, she's here, she's gone, she's back, I don't know. My daughter's going through this pain, and it continued for a number of years. Fast forward to 2016, the truth came out. My ex-wife told me that she had strayed, she was not faithful. And I asked her if there was anything that she could do, could we work this out? And she said, no, I'm happy with what I'm doing and who I'm with now. So she left me, and with the children and the house and the mortgage, and I was wrecked. I was supposed to go on a mission trip an hour before she told me to another country, and there's no way I could go in any way, shape, mind. So I was so upset, and I called the pastor of my church, and he understood. He was absolutely amazing. The church did a fantastic job with handling me not being able to go on that church trip, the mission trip. And for the next 5 days, I sat in the same chair that I rocked my kids in and cried, and I cried, and I cried. And the devil started speaking into my ear. And although I was following Christ, I wasn't following the way that I am now. And I kept hearing him say, what are they going to say about you? And he kept turning it more and more. You see, my ex-wife was the president of the PTA for the last 10 years. We knew all the teachers. We lived 2 blocks from the school. I was the guy who was the president of the soccer organization, the baseball organization. I started the softball organization, so I knew many, many people. And the devil started saying, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, what did he do to her to make her do that to him? You see how he does that? He twists that, and that's not the truth. But now you're paranoid, and you know you're not going to be married, and everybody who knows you thinks of you. And I thought of myself as somebody that other people looked up to. I was Coach Pat, and that a lot of people, I adored a lot of my kids who I coached, and I think they adored me as well as my own children. And then their parents, and I just kept thinking to myself, what are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of me? I couldn't hold this together. I couldn't hold what about my family, my kids? And I cried in that chair for 5 days. And I called my church and I said, hey, listen, I need to see a counselor. I felt God wanted me to see one. And they gave me a list of 2 counselors, and one's that wasn't Carrie's name. So I kept looking, and something God was stirring inside of me to keep looking for counselors. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna have to pay the mortgage by myself. I'm gonna have to raise the kids and do all this stuff all by myself. How am I gonna do it? I can't afford to see a counselor. $125 3 times a week, not gonna be able to do it. They don't take insurance. Let me find somebody who does insurance. So what I thought was, this is kind of silly. let me find a counselor whose name ends in a vowel. They're probably going to be Italian or Spanish. They're probably going to be Christian, and I'll be able to understand God and pay a $10 copay and get counseled. And then God said, no way, that's not what I want. And then he kept showing me Carrie's name. Holy Spirit. He kept showing me her name. So I called her and talked to me for half an hour on the phone. And she said to me, I need to see you tonight. Can you come tonight? And when I walked in her office, I literally walked in like this, looking to see if somebody was following me or somebody was looking at me walking in her office, because that's the paranoia of the devil. That's what he puts on you. But what happened is she counseled me with love, and she counseled me with truth, and she showed me who I truly was, a son of the Most High God. When I walked out like a man. I walked out like, guys, she gave me back my man card. And we joke about the man card, but let me tell you what, when he gets pulled from you, you feel worthless. You can't support your family. You couldn't keep your marriage together. That woman saved my life. Honestly. The next day, after I walked out of her office, the next morning, I sat in that same chair that I cried in for the other 5 days. I cried harder, and I cried harder, and I cried harder. And it was because the truth was revealed through her lips, through the love of the Father, through his daughter, to his son. And that's what Revelation Perfect Love is. It's absolutely an amazing organization to partner with. And this verse hasn't been spoken yet, but it's Psalm 32:8, and it says that God will teach us and instruct us in the way to go, and he will counsel us with his loving eye on us. And I am very, very thankful that there's people like Carrie, and there's people like Margie, who were there to be able to do that for me. And at that point in time, I really needed them to help me with the benefit of Revelation Perfect Love, a nonprofit organization, to be able to help me be able to afford to see her. And my goodness, what she did for me was absolutely amazing. So her organization, which I can now say very happily, I am a treasurer of. I'm on the board. I'm very thankful that she asked me to be on the board. But what I do know about them is that they have helped 14 people who weren't able to afford to be able to see counselors this year, to be able to get the help that they needed. This is an organization that we desperately need to partner with, that we desperately need to speak into the public and to other people. They're going to help a lot of people. That mercy ship that Pastor Chris talked about, God just, I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking mercy, mercy, mercy ship. And the next morning I got up and I had to print it out and put it in a frame and give it to her, because it's a prophetic gift that the Lord gave to Pastor Chris for Carrie, because it's the truth. She's going to set the captives free. And she has plans, and God has plans to bring increase to this organization. Amen. And the way that we do that is through partnering.